Hello, Freedom Nation. It's Jeff here with another of the best of the Freedom Nation podcast, releasing these episodes from the podcast on video. We've recorded video for years, but we hadn't released them ever. So enjoy this best of episode with my friend Roger Williams, the chief crosser offer of his podcast or his bucket list, and the podcast host of the Crosser Offer podcast. Roger is the guy who taught me how to really use a bucket list. So I hope you enjoy this interview and his story, which is absolutely amazing, as much as I did. And the friendship I still have with him, I cherish every day.
All in you. Everything you're looking for, it's all in you. You gotta believe that it's all in you. Everything you're searching for, it's all in.
Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here once again with the Freedom Nation podcast. And I am super excited today to interview a new friend of mine that was introduced to me by a friend of a friend. Just everything that I want to tell you about Freedom Day. Uh, Roger Williams is the head crosser author of his bucket list, a new author who shared his story. And I just finished reading his book, and it is just absolutely fantastic learning his story of how he got to where he is. So, Roger, welcome to the show, buddy.
Jeff, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversations up until now. And so I'm just hoping that we can recreate some of that vibe for your audience.
Absolutely. That was the other day. He and I met the other day and we started talking, and we realized, oh crap, we just talked for an hour and we should have been recording all this. So I knew it was fun, and I wanted to read the book first before I interviewed him again. But so Roger, let's start off. How in the heck did you get to be the head crosser offer of your bucket list?
Yeah, it's a self-proclaimed title. I gave it to myself, and sitting in quarantine for several years and for several months up until the time December 2020 came along.
Yeah.
We all had a lot of time to be thinking about what our lives were and what we wanted to be known for and what legacy was and all those kind of things, where we found our self-worth. And then in December of 2020, I had a heart attack on top of all that in the middle of the pandemic, and just came out of that and really started more intently saying, okay, where do I find my self-worth?
Mhm.
And for so long in my life, it had been what I did and who I did it for to sell my labor.
Yeah.
And so, although I've worked in youth development field and teaching for 30 plus years,
Mhm.
where everyone you meet and they say, what do you do? And I tell them and they say, oh, that must be so rewarding. Sure. Work should be rewarding, right? It should have some value to you. And a lot of times it was hard work watching kids open up rejection letters from college. It's hard work getting the phone call that says a text saying, hey, I got pregnant. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that this is hard, and you take it with you throughout your day. And although I love doing that work, I decided that 168 hours in a week.
Mhm.
And if I've sold 40 or 50 of them to someone and I have slept 40 or 50, I still have a good
Yeah.
60 to 80 hours left in the week of how I should be known. And for a long time,
What am I using it for? Yeah.
yeah, intentionally, like looking at that time and saying, I have all this time. I could be building my own identity. So after having those conversations in my head one day, I just said, I'm going to go change my job title on socials. So I went to all my social media accounts, changed my title of work to I crossed it off from my bucket list. And my bucket list was the company I worked for.
Yes.
So it was fun, and it was a little joke for
Mhm.
me, thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to intentionally, if anybody asks me this question again, if they say, what do you do? I'm not going to answer my work. I'm going to say, I cross things off my bucket list. To me, that's a much more interesting, longer conversation to have with folks
Mhm.
than someone sitting there saying, I work at a paper mill and I sell paper and
Yeah, I'm a youth counselor. Okay. But yeah, you do rewarding work, but it's still, you're selling your time for money and you're not
yeah.
doing necessarily what you want to do. So let's talk about the whole bucket list thing. What was the impetus for it? What made you go, I want to create a bucket list?
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with the movie that came out
Yeah.
in 1980s or 20.
2007.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the movie that came out in 2007 called
Okay.
The Bucket List. And at the time, I was in my early 30s.
Mhm.
And the reality is that phrasing hadn't been in the lexicon of the English language until that point. The term kick the bucket had been, but assigning, creating a list of things you want to do before you die really wasn't around. People may have been doing it, but there wasn't any set thing that this is what it was. And when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, this is great. But it's a plot device, right? It's a
Yeah.
plot device for the movie for these two guys who have nothing in common to all who are dying to get together and go out and do these crazy adventures. And so to me, it didn't stick. I said, oh, okay, I know there's some things that I'd like to do, but not necessarily I'm going to create an actual list.
Yeah.
I've got lots of time, right? I can do this whenever. It's no big deal. Yeah.
That's what old people do.
That's right. Exactly. Because that's what they told me in the movie. This is something you do before you die. And so I put it off and put it off. And there were some things that came along that I said, oh, I want to do that. But the list was always just in my head.
Yeah.
And so for me, it wasn't really real until after the heart attack. And I'd had those things in my head saying, okay, I need to write these things down. They need to be actionable and I need to be able to tell them to people and I need to be able to say, I'm going to go do this.
Mhm.
And so the first major one for me was to go do the Camino de Santiago, which is a 790-kilometer trek across northern Spain. It takes about 32, 35 days, depending on how you do it. And you stay in, you walk 15, 20 miles a day. Stay in hostels. And it's not like the AT or the Pacific Trail where you are out in the woods for 3 days. Like, it's nothing like that.
Everything is basically one hostel to another.
One bar, which is
it's
basically a restaurant to them, but a bar, from one bar to another, buying Spanish omelets for breakfast and second breakfast and sometimes for dinner. And
you're going to be walking 15 miles. You'll burn it off anyhow.
yes. Oh, I lost plenty of weight. But it was something that I literally in my brain had in my bucket list for about 10 or 11 years.
Wow.
But it wasn't written down until 2021. And so I said, this is it. And I needed to do something big. I needed to do, because I'm a lifelong habitual procrastinator. And so for me, I had to go and say, I'm going to do something big, hairy, audacious goal that I can say I can do this. So when the little stuff comes up, those are easy. And to get some of that fear out of just taking a month off from work and doing all that, it's a big commitment. So for me, it was like, I got to do something big so that people know I'm serious.
No kidding. Yeah.
Because I'm an Aquarius and I got ideas all the time. People,
It's just that implementation thing that
for an Aquarius, yeah. So I have 52 years of experience and my friends and family going, oh yeah, whatever.
You're going to go walk 700 kilometers.
Whatever. So I had to do.
Tell me how you prepared for that. I mean, because that's not something you just go, I'm going to do this cold and just start going.
Yeah. The Camino, I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, the Camino is really simple to do.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't take a ton of apps on your phone. It doesn't take maps. It's very well laid out. I think somewhere I read like 75% of it is on asphalt. So it's not like you're backcountry packing in
Appalachian Trail.
Right. And you can miss it. You can miss a marker, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much there's yellow markers painted everywhere and pointing in the direction you go and you just follow the yellow arrows. And then there are some schedules that people have created. Say, hey, if you want to do it in 32 days, here are the cities to stop at. Here's the distances between, all that kind of stuff. You can find all those resources online. For me, it was more about having had a heart attack. Like the first thing I asked the doctor after he came in from putting a stent in my heart, and he explained everything to me. And I'm like, can I still go to Spain? And he was like, well, yeah, if you build up your cardio and keep taking your pills, you'll be fine. I was up to about 9 miles a day before I left. This is where I was, anywhere from 6 to 9 miles. And a lot of it, I think your body can't prepare for that. You could if you wanted, but the reality is you just got to do it and your body gets accustomed to it. I got hurt second day in on a knee injury, tweaked my knee. When I got in the Pamplona a day later, I bought a brace, I put it on and just keep on going.
Wore that puppy out over the next 33 days.
Or I think I left it someplace around the 26th.
Oh, not working anymore.
Yeah. For me, I think if I was to coach somebody through that, it's really about the mental preparedness. You're going to be walking 15, 20 miles a day. And a lot of it for me, those first couple of days was I was still in America. I wasn't a pilgrim yet. Like they call people that walk the Camino pilgrims. I hadn't shed my Americanisms yet. And
Okay.
so I was huffing it to get to the next city because I didn't want, not like it was a race, but I just didn't want to miss anything because you get into town at the end of the day and people hang out, you shower, you wash your clothes, and you hang out and drink and eat. And it's just a great time to get to meet people and have a good time. So I just didn't want to miss any of that. So I was pushing myself harder at a harder pace than I probably should, especially going over the Spanish Pyrenees mountains. Probably,
Right out of the gate, first
yeah.
2 days.
So it's, so I think that's more, especially people from this side of the world, that it's okay. It's going to take when it takes. You're going to get there when you're going to get there, and you're going to get to experience whatever that is.
Yeah.
But there never was a day once I started going at my own pace that I didn't have a good time at the end of the day and hanging out
Yeah.
with people and have great conversations and great food.
Hell, they stay up until freaking the middle of the night anyhow, so it doesn't really.
Yeah. Yeah. Pilgrims during COVID, but usually anyways, they locked the hostels at 10 o'clock.
Oh,
To keep, yeah, and that was something I was prepared for. But if you're out with 10 or 12 people and you all come back to the same hostel at night, they will let you in. They're not going to put out 12, 14 people all at the same time. We learned that lesson.
so what are some other big kind of bucket list items that you, because you took a, as you call it, an adult gap year.
Mhm.
What are some of the other things beyond the Camino that you did that you've checked off?
Yeah, I think that you say big things. And so I would say I checked off getting knuckle tattoos. And for that's a big thing for me for a lot of
Yeah.
reasons. One, because you can't hide them unless you're wearing gloves. But the reality is that that's putting tattoos anywhere that are constantly visible, neck, face. It's a big decision. I've been tattooing for a long time and I have a lot of them, but that was big for me. But it wasn't a big ordeal. I called the shop the day ahead, said,
Went
hey,
in
you
and got it
got
done.
45 minutes.
But yeah, what I mean by big is what are the big things that are like, this is something that I've thought about forever.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I did that and I traveled Europe and went back to Europe for 3 months. In that process, went to Costa Rica, crashed a wedding, which
we'll
was
share that story in a second. But I thought that was, I really want to, what I want to get to is what I think the biggest thing I got out of your book was that you had an underlying design to what you were doing. The bucket list has to be more than just a list of things. There really needs to be some kind of underlying thing. So share with
Sure.
us because
And
I think that's a very interesting. It was a take that I'd never heard before.
yes, we don't do a whole lot in this world, whether you're in business or you're a church or whether no matter what it is, whatever institution you're in, they've got a mission statement. Everybody's got a mission statement, everybody's got a vision statement, right? So why not have that for your bucket list to provide the same benefits that it does to those corporations and those institutions?
Yeah.
Right? Because what is your intention is what I call it for the book, is setting an intention of saying, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? Now, not everything on my list meets that intention, and I'll share that in a second. And that's okay. But the driving force behind what I do and what I'm trying to do with crossing items off my list is I want to be intent. I want to be intentful. I want to create relationships or continue relationships. So most of the things on my list are very, what I would say are communal. They're done with either large groups of people or small groups of people, or I know that I'm intentionally going there to meet people, or just even in the case of the tattoos. I didn't know the artist before I went, and we're friends now.
Yeah.
So, so it was communal from that standpoint.
And I think it probably had even more meaning to you. If that was your intention, it had more meaning coming out of 2 years of lockdown and
Mhm.
not having that community and that communal spirit that you crave. I know
Right.
from knowing you, that's something that's what drives
Yes, definitely. That everything I've ever done in my life, that probably
you. Yeah.
been there. Excuse me. I got some crazy throat.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
the wonderful world of allergies. I know down by us here.
Hopefully I got it. Man, I brought tea and everything. Jeff.
So I wanted to come back to this because I think it's really a good story. So you didn't just go walk the Camino and then that was it.
Mhm.
You built some really amazing, cool relationships along the way, and then went to see those folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew that the Camino was communal. It was one of the reasons I wanted to do it. Lots of people do it for spiritual reasons. People do it for religious reasons. There's tons of reasons to do the Camino. For me, it was to create community.
Mhm.
And I knew that was going to be with people I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that happened to me was when I came home from the trip, went back into the office, and a friend of mine who I'd known for 4.5 years said, "How was your trip?" And I said, "I'll show you." And I had made this reel, 30 seconds for Instagram, that was just selfies
Yeah.
of everyone I had met, or most of the people that I had met along the way. And when she got done watching it, she said, "I've never seen you that happy." Which the beginning of right after she said that, I was like, "Oh, that's great. I'm glad that she saw that. I'm glad that came out." And you could see that I was definitely excited and ready for and was doing what I intended to do when
Mhm.
I set out on the trip. But then I started thinking, man, me for 4.5 years and you've never seen me that happy. Something's got to change.
This sucks.
Yeah, just something's got to change. So I was happy and sad at the same
Yeah.
time. And so when I took the gap year, I knew that I was going to, one of the things I wanted to do was continue those relationships from the Camino.
Yeah.
There was a couple that I met that was engaged, walking the Camino together. I spent about 10 days walking with them towards the end. And they were engaged, and they were talking all about, one day at lunch with a whole bunch of us, they were talking about how their wedding was going to be in Costa Rica, and it was going to be a small destination wedding. And there's only about 50 people coming. And I have a podcast. People need to go listen to the episode because it's just amazing what they did alone, because they really were building community for a whole week before the wedding down there in Costa Rica. Just really super cool people. And so we were joking at this lunch. I started joking, "Oh, we're all going to crash it. You got a small wedding. We're all going to crash it." Everybody else was, "Yeah, we're going to crash it." And then the couple was like, "That would be so funny if you guys all crashed this wedding." And so they sped up ahead of me. I started to slow down. I took a half day and they went ahead. So they finished a couple days before me on the Camino. And that night, the whole group I had been with, all those people that were at that lunch, went out, had a party that night to celebrate this accomplishment. And I guess during the party, the bride drunkenly invited everyone to come to the wedding.
Yeah.
I, however, was not there, did not receive this verbal invitation. So a month later, after we all get home from the Camino, I'm WhatsApping everybody saying, "Hey, are we going to crash this wedding or not? I want to start planning. It's in February." And everyone's, "Yeah." So they invited everybody. And I said, "Oh, it's on now. I'm gonna crash this thing if I didn't get it." So it was super fun. It was a great experience. I was headed off for 3 months to go to Europe. So I made them think that I wasn't going to be available. So I never got an invitation on purpose. I did that
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah.
And so I was going to be away from my partner for 3 months. So she and I went down to Costa Rica together for a week, and we knew the wedding was going to be on Saturday. And so we scouted the location to see how bad security was and what do we need to do to get into this wedding. And it was not easy. I made friends with a lot of valets. We to try, because this place that they got married was super fancy and super guarded. And then we had dinner with all of our other friends that knew we were there from the community, so about 7 or 8 of us all together, and had dinner. I made a traditional Costa Rican meal for everybody.
Nice.
And then the next night, we went over to the facility where they got married. We specifically timed it so that we would arrive after the service, after the meal. It's a small wedding. Somebody shows
Yeah.
up uninvited, you're going to be noticed. So we didn't want to take anything away from their day. And so we showed up right at 8:30 when the party started. And the bride just screamed at the top of her lungs in excitement and hugged me. And the groom was just like flabbergasted, like, "What is going on?" And it was just a lot of fun. It was just super fun.
That's
And
awesome.
we got to miss out on some of the community building
Yeah.
that they were doing throughout the week. But then my partner and I got to spend,
You were going to be apart for 3 months anyhow, so you
right.
needed time together, and checked off a few things on your list down there. I'm sure. So the cooking traditional Costa Rican meal was on your
Yeah.
list. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a definite example. And thank you for
Yeah.
bringing it up, that I wanted to be intentional about
Yeah.
community. And so that was the perfect opportunity. It was more about just being with those people than it
Yeah.
was crashing the wedding. I could have easily called them up 3 months ahead and said, "Hey, everybody got invitations. Can I
Yeah.
have one?" Just
Yeah.
made it a little bit more fun,
Well, it was a great surprise for them because they weren't
Sure.
expecting you to be there.
No,
That was
they were not.
an
There's
awesome wedding gift. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and they said that. They said it
Yeah.
was one of the best gifts they got all week, and you can't ask for anything more than that. They're great people, and it was just fun to be around them, but that's really, and even the 11 weeks I was gone after that when I was in Europe, I made decisions, on how my itinerary looked based on being able to see people, that I had met on the Camino. So it was very intentional that I wanted to go back and spend a couple of weeks in Pamplona, Spain, because I have friends in Burgos and I have friends in Pamplona, and and I have friends that were willing to drive up from Madrid to come see
Yeah.
me. And so it was, I saw 5 or 6 friends in those 2 weeks
Yeah.
from the Camino. And then where I stayed in Italy was making sure that I would be close to people, and so I could see them.
Yeah.
And they weren't locations that were typical vacation spots
Sure.
in
Yeah, these are where the real people live.
yeah, but that was so much more important to me.
Yeah.
I spent a day in Rome, probably walked about 10 miles, took selfies in front of all the old stuff,
Mhm.
and that was plenty for me. I
Yeah.
wanted to get to my friends,
Yeah.
and that was way more important. I took a side trip to Israel just to see one person for 2 days.
You were over there anyhow.
That's right. Exactly, exactly. And so I'm like, it's a $350 ticket. It's from Rome. It's no big deal. I'll go say Ate. And it was a blast. I'd never been to Israel. I got to see Jerusalem and the old
But
portions of that
also
city.
spend time with a local who can really show you
Oh
around.
my gosh. He took me to this butcher does lunch, and it was just this plate of meat. And I'm like, "What's all on here?" He goes, "Don't worry about it,
Don't
just
worry
eat
about
it."
it.
I'm like, "All right, man." It was
I'm gonna
amazing.
trust you on this.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I was
Yeah,
like, "This is some good stuff. I don't care. I don't wanna know." It
that
tastes
is
too good. I
awesome.
don't wanna know.
That is so awesome. The book just came out. So talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So you finished the adult gap year.
Mm.
Book came out. What other things are you doing now to really continue that?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year from the standpoint. I started a podcast right when I started my gap year, and
Yeah.
it's called Crossing It Off Podcast. It's all every week I interview one person about one thing that they've crossed off their bucket list,
Nice.
and there's the variety is just amazing. It's just amazing, from somebody wanting to reconnect with their estranged daughter to somebody crossing off that they played in the NFL. It goes the gambit, and that's been a lot of fun. But to promote that podcast, I've been doing other people's podcasts
Mhm.
and having these similar conversations. I think I've done over 30 this year, interviewing with folks. And that really helped guide this philosophy of what's in the book.
Mhm.
And it's also helped me hone the podcast so that it's can be more effective for folks to listen to.
Mhm.
And I'm in the process of creating online courses based on the book so that people can, depending on where they are, the book does a really good overview. No matter where you are in your bucket list lifestyle journey, whether you're just starting out or you're in the thick of things, there are different pieces that will fit where you're at. So I want to create courses that people can say, okay, I'm just starting out. I'm going to take this course, and that they could progress
Because there's
on.
so much read your story about the Camino, and you did a massive amount of study about all the elements of it and everything else before you went. And I don't think people realize that. And
Yeah.
like you and I were talking, and we have a love of trains together. And I'm like, all right, damn it. Now you made me step up the game here, buddy. So I got a big one that I'm going to be
Yeah.
announcing this next year that kind of combines a bunch of different things I want in my
You
life.
better vlog every day. You better.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Just
And
like
then my wife tells me, oh, hell, I'm not gonna be in a car with you for 3 or 4 days. So I'm like, crap. So the beginning of the trip, I'm gonna be on my own, I think, at that
that's good.
point. So it's all right.
That's good.
It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I can find the world's largest ball of twine somewhere and take a selfie in front of it. But
So it's been interesting to me that it's become a system. I hate it. I'm a rebel.
yeah.
I'm an outlier. It's
Yeah.
almost everything I try to do. But this past year, this gap year, this system of that you need to have a bucket list. What's your bucket list mindset? What's your bucket list creation plan of actually
Mhm.
having a list, and then management, bucket list management. How do you
Yes.
choose how to cross things off? And so I never intended that to happen, but it's just through all these conversations with folks like you, as well as just people I've met in my travels talking about it and the people
Mm.
that are close to me, the system just appeared.
There has to be a way because I told you, I didn't even think about doing a bucket list until about 2 months ago. And that became an integral part of Freedom Day.
Sure.
Because I honestly believe that whole freedom of intention thing that you talk about is probably the most important part. Financial freedom is great and fine and all that. Time freedom's fine and great and all that. I think that freedom of intention, of being intentional about what you do, whatever it is,
Yeah.
whether
Exactly.
it's I've never taken a risk in my life and I need to do things that force me to take a risk, or it's, hey, I want this communal feeling and bring community together. Whatever that intention is, whatever you're not doing in your life currently, I think is just so important. And if you do those things, the other stuff is going to fall in line.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason I think I set up the mindset of setting an intention for your bucket list at the beginning was to help people be able use that as a guide, right?
Yeah.
We talked about a mission statement before. Mission statement for a corporation or an institution should guide its how it operates.
Mm.
And so that's what I wanted to do is get people thinking about this idea of let's set an intention for your list
Yep.
and let that guide you on the things that you put on it. Because so
Mhm.
many people, I think, have this misperception that bucket list is just all these grand adventures that you get to
Yeah.
do, and that's included in it. But why do you want to go to Machu Picchu?
Yeah.
Right? Why do you want to go to the Great Barrier Reef? Is it just because everybody else is doing it? Then you're just
Mm.
keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't think that should be the intention of what your bucket list.
Yeah.
It can be, that's where you're at.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But just
Uh,
checking things off for the fact of checking them off because everybody else has been to Machu Picchu and I want to go there. Who the hell? Yeah. What's the purpose? Yeah.
Right. It's
That underlying purpose. Why do you want to go? What is it that
right.
drives you? And we were joking about this before we got on the air. I was like, now you made me want to do the damn Camino de Santiago, but I don't know if it's the Camino or if it is the Camino of my life. There's something that is that really big,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
for sure. And I think that another thing that for me, if I went back and read the book, like I know the one thing that I was excited to write about was the fact that your bucket list should be a living document. And so often in my experience in the workforce was that if you put anything in an email, people freaked out. We're not going to do that. I'm like, the rough draft, it's an
Yeah.
initial idea.
Yeah, I'm
And
just an idea. I'm throwing this out
yeah,
there. Yeah.
just spitballing here. I didn't write it in stone, didn't carve anything. But people just like this, oh my gosh, it's in writing and it can't do
Yeah.
anything. And I really think that's a misnomer for a bucket list. You should be able
Yeah.
to put things on and take things off. You grow as a person, you grow
Mm.
older physically.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that you're going to go through in life that will change either your intention or things for the list as a whole. Your intention might change.
But
Or
it's funny too. I've noticed because when I was doing my original bucket list, I did 100 things on the
mm,
bucket list. And now I go back and I'll find something else. And I'm like, oh shit, let me go back and get rid of something that's just off the list. If it's a task list item, it's off of there.
and
I
you
got
have,
room for 100 and we're going to focus on 100 that really make.
I don't know if I have any authority in your life, but I
Yeah.
will allow you to have more than 100 things on your list.
Okay. Yeah. So my pea brain can only handle 100 at a time,
And
but
that's fine too.
we're
And
going
that's
to
fine
work
too.
through that list and
Yeah.
maybe make some room in there. But
Yeah. There you go. That's
that's, yeah,
for sure.
like I said, it's just for me, that was the freeing thing. That was the final freedom of my life. Is giving myself the permission to be intentional.
Yeah. And I think that you can put things on your list and come back and say, oh, I'm too old, or that doesn't fit my intention as well as I thought it did. And it's okay to cross it off having not done it.
Yeah.
It's like people are like, oh my gosh, that means if I cross it off, I've done it. It doesn't matter. Don't take this all so literally.
Nobody's going to
Yeah.
check your math.
I am not the bucket list police. Whatever you put on your list, you put on your list. So have the freedom
Yeah.
to be able to have a list that is a living document.
Yeah.
It's
We talked my first one on the list. I didn't do anything to facilitate that whole thing. It just happened.
Yep.
But I'm taking credit for it. Damn it.
There
'Cause
you
I wrote
go.
it on that afternoon.
Yeah.
Happened. I didn't know it was going to happen. So
There you go. Hey, if the universe provides, that's one of the great things that I found about living this lifestyle
yeah.
is that I take what the universe gives me.
Yeah.
That might sound a little woo or woke or whatever you want. Yeah. Whatever.
I mean, so I'm the same way. I'm not big into the loose, but something has happened to me this year that I put it out there to the universe, and the
Mhm.
universe is going, let me throw something in your path.
Yeah.
Or if I think I'm going down the wrong path, something gets thrown in there and whoops, okay, we'll be right back on the path.
Yeah.
Uh,
One of my favorite stories from my 3-month stay in Europe was that my father passed while I was gone,
mm,
and I was on Zoom talking to my partner and making arrangements, and so
yeah,
I said, "Hey, you gotta bring my suit jacket." She goes, "That's like a dinner jacket. It's like sparkly. It's like Elvis would wear it or something. You don't wanna wear that to your dad's funeral."
yeah.
I'm like, "What am I gonna do? I'm leaving in 4 days or 5 days to
I'm
come
not
back
gonna
to
find a
Minneapolis."
jacket.
Yeah, I'm not gonna find it. She goes, "I don't know what you need to do something." And she was right. Of course, she was
Mhm.
right. She was right. But I opened up the Google machine and typed in suits in Triste, Italy, and found the one that was off the beaten path and walked in, and this nice woman with broken English, a younger lady, introduced herself and said, "Hey, what are you looking for?" And I said, "Oh, I need a suit." When she said, "When you need it by?" I'm like, "Wednesday," which was 4 days away. She goes, "Oh, no. I don't know. My fiance is going to be here real soon and he might be able to help you, but that's close." And Fabrizio rolled up in front of the shop 10 minutes later on his Vespa and walked in and said, "Okay." He looked me over and said, "Okay, I think I have something." Pulls his suit off the rack and puts it on me. Minor adjustments, taking in some on in the back to make it
Yeah.
a little tighter, taking up. He goes, "I'm going to take the pants in because that's European style." I'm like, "Man, I'm buying a European suit.
We're gonna do it
Tailored,
however we do it.
whatever it is you think that looks like, that's fine by me." And I'm sitting there looking at myself in the suit. I'm like, "Man, I look really good. This is going to cost me a lot of money." And then I said, "It's my dad's funeral."
Yeah. Life is
Who
too short.
Yeah, whom
Yeah.
I love and cherish. I'm like, "Whatever it is, I'll pay it." And I went back and told my partner about it. She goes, "How bad?" And I said, "Better than Men's Warehouse, more than Men's Warehouse, but better than Armani." And it wasn't too overall, it really wasn't that bad. And he was so kind, so
Yes.
good. He was an artist. He looked literally an artist. Like he had his
Wow.
paintings up in his shop and literally an artist. And the suit's just amazing. And I got a chance to wear it to a wedding as well as my dad's funeral. And it's just super special to me. But like
Yes.
I never would have a handmade Italian suit had I not let the universe
From
just
some obscure town
yeah,
in Italy.
yeah,
Yeah.
sir, tailor. It's just I would never have done that had I not embraced this thing of saying, "Okay, I'm gonna be intentional about living out my life." And I went and had beers with Fabrizio after I came back
That's
from my
awesome.
dad's funeral and hung out with him, so it was communal in some ways.
Yeah.
I promote him on Instagram all the time going, "Oh my gosh, you guys gotta see this. If you're ever interested, like,
Go
this is the
find
guy to go to."
Fabrizio and
Yeah, that's right. This is the guy to go. I'm much more open to what the universe provides.
yeah, that's awesome. But that's such a wonderful story.
Yeah,
That was a great way to top it all. All right, so let's talk about the fast question.
great.
All right, you wake up in the morning, business and everything's totally gone. Have $500 in your pocket, laptop, computer, place to live. What do you do first?
I rebuild the podcast.
Okay.
That's honestly, that's what I would do. I'd rebuild the podcast. I personally get so much out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works for you, but I'll do interviews and then I won't edit them until the right before the week before they come out. And so I'll
Yeah.
have done interviews 2 months ago, and then all of a sudden, and I'm sitting there thinking, I know what the topic is. I remember the person. I'm not sure this was very good. And then I re-listen to it while I'm editing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing story. How did I ever
Yeah.
forget this? So I get so much out of it. And for me, one of the things about the podcast is that you may not have an estranged child that you need to reconnect with. That may not
Mhm.
be on your bucket list,
Yeah.
but listening to that person's story and process of how they did it
Mhm.
is just so important and amazing. And there's always also things that you never knew of, maybe that now all of a sudden can go on your list if you
Yeah.
find the same intention and desire to do them. That's my hope. Is just that people to tell good stories, help
Well,
people.
that's been the fun part of this year too, because we do these as an audio podcast, but I record the videos, and it's been so much fun because I'm including some of these stories in the Freedom Day book. And it's been
Awesome.
so much fun going back and reliving these conversations like
Oh
yours.
yeah.
And the lady before you, I was like, I have to put your story in the book now
It's
because
awesome.
she's just amazing. And she's a 30-year overnight success. It
Yeah.
fought for 18 years, not making very much money, and then figured it out. And
And
but
and I think that's a lot of where my attitude is as
yeah,
well. I know I'm on the right trajectory. I know I have something. and
Yep.
I know it can help people. And
Yeah.
so however long it takes for that to grow into something that provides me full-time income, I'll do it. So I'd immediately start the podcast back up. We're on. We're
Yeah.
keeping going.
What's the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
Oh my gosh. In the past year, oh, I think it was paying to be on somebody else's podcast. That $100 I'm never getting
That
back
you're never gonna get back. Yeah.
and got literally nothing for. So that was a major lesson for me
I fell for that trick once too, so don't
yeah,
feel so bad. You did
yeah. Well, it's a model, and if you
Yep.
wanna use it, that's fine. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that use that model, like, flood their listening base with stuff.
Yep.
So you get lost in somebody like that.
Mhm.
You look for the episode and it's 20 deep 5 days
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
So it's
Exactly.
just
Yeah, we're just
it's
trying to get
like
things done as quickly as
yeah,
we can, and yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if I got contacted by one podcast and I wasn't even sure it was like really a fit for me
Mhm.
because it's very specific. And I did theirs. It was like 15, 20 minutes long. And
Mm.
she emailed me like 3 days later and was like, yeah, the episode's been downloaded 58,000 times. I didn't do anything for that. That just fall into my lap. So paying for that, I realized two things. One, I'm never going to do that again. And two, as I look for podcasts to be on, I like research them. And I use listennotes.com and say where they have fallen the percentage of
Yeah.
listeners
Yeah.
and how long have they been. I did a couple people's podcasts that I think I was their second or third guest.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole point of this one, is to be honest, is that it's you're using somebody else's audience. Like I
Yeah.
want to share with your audience
Absolutely.
what it is and that I do and how they can engage with me. And you're going to be on my show and do the same thing. And
And we and ours complement each other because
oh
we
yeah,
talk about some of the very same things.
I'm just excited to hear about you driving a Lamborghini. That's why I want you to come on.
Yeah, baby. That's gonna be October here coming up, so I'm
Yeah,
really excited. I already have the things checked in, or I already got it purchased. I'm just waiting for the day now. So we got to get past F1 here in
yeah.
Austin because F1 comes in and it's a disaster area over
Oh,
there.
I'm
So
sure.
then they'll start picking up after that. So I've got the first one after F1 leaves town.
Awesome.
So cool. So what is a good book that you would recommend for our audience?
I'm a history teacher. Before I started doing this, I
Mhm.
love history, and it may not necessarily pertain to what we're doing here, but Howard Zinn's History of the United States, the People's History of the United States, is
Yeah.
probably, I think, one of the most important books that any American, especially, should read and understand that there's multiple points of view of history, not just views of history, but
Mhm.
actual experiences of history, right?
Yeah.
That there's so often you do have to be honest and say history was written by the victors.
Yeah.
And this really shows the opposite side of that. And I think that's an important thing for anyone to have a true understanding of this country, is to be able to say other people experience that same thing a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so we need that, especially in this country right now.
Mhm.
We gotta have that.
Awesome. What's a good tool that you use every day in your business and everything that you'd recommend?
I highly recommend Calendly.
Okay.
Yeah, calendly.com. It's very easy for me to set up my calendar and for it
Mhm.
to sync with my Google. And so that people can make appointments with me when it's the best for them. And when
Yeah.
I'll go in streaks where I'll interview 20 people at a time, 20
Mhm.
people in a couple of weeks. And so it just really makes it easy for me to keep track of that, for them to keep track of that. Then it gets synced to my mentoring calendar so that I know when I can take appointments for that and all that. So it's one of the tools where I don't think I'm a procrastinator. So if we sat here and said, hey, let's, set up a meeting, it might take me a week before that meeting.
Yeah.
It's so much easier for me to just send a link and say,
Send yeah.
take your time, take your
Yeah.
time.
Well, I used to have an executive assistant that did just that all the
Uh,
time. Poor Cindy. The problem is she would always go in and, hey, okay, here's the 4 or 5 days Jeff or the times Jeff can meet. And then she'd have my calendar all junked up with all that. And I finally eliminated that from her tasks and just went with Calendly, and it's so much better. It gets
I agree.
things get done and
Oh,
now, and she's got more time to do things that are actually productive for our lives. So,
yeah, it's amazing. It's made everything simpler for me for sure.
so final question: what is your definition of freedom?
Freedom to me, Jeff, is the ability to say yes to what I want to. and also to say no to things that I don't want to.
I love that.
I think that we get so caught up in saying yes. And so part of this adult gap year that that I'm rounding out right now was that people said, what does that mean? What are you doing? And I said, I'm only going to do things that bring me joy.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's saying yes to things, but a lot of times that's saying no,
Yeah.
right? And I have a partner. We're not married, but we are fledged partners. And sometimes I don't want to go visit her relatives. N- And not because of who they are, but because of who I am. Like I'm
Yeah.
not in the best place to be the best version of me. And
Mhm.
I have to be able to say, no, I can't do that right.
Yeah.
And so that's real freedom. Not only just say yes. Yeah. Do you want to go to Burning Man? Yes, I'd like to go to Burning Man.
Mm.
Yeah. But it's also to be able to say, no, I don't think I
Yeah,
want to do that.
for
And
me,
that should
yeah,
be okay. It should be okay for me to say no. I think that's real freedom.
that is brilliant, man. What's the best way somebody can get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah. The absolute best way is to go to crossingitoffpodcast.com.
Okay.
And you can find all the information about mentoring, about the book, about the classes that are coming up, about the podcast. You can listen to the podcast there. So just about everything that I'm into is there. You can find, this episode will be on there for people to find and listen to. So
Awesome.
it's absolutely just the best place for folks to find me.
I am so glad that our friend connected us.
Oh, most definitely.
This has been a couple weeks of just joy getting to know you and reading
Thanks.
the book and everything else. Like I said, I give a bucket list book to every one of my clients that I work with in our practice. And now your book is also going to be one of those things that I hand them because it's the instruction manual.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. I really appreciate the nice things you said
Yeah.
about it. And yeah, I saw your review on Amazon, which I thought was awesome. It's just very kind. And there's a lot of books, they're how-to books that say do it this way.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that I struggled with when I wrote this book.
And it really isn't.
Yeah.
You really don't sit down and go, okay, this is what you do step by step. What I learned from that was it's not really clear cut process always. Shit happens. You didn't
Yeah.
plan to have a heart attack. And
No. But it's the thing that I keep saying over and over again, the book, it's your list. It is absolutely your list. I'm not here to, like I said earlier, to be bucket list police
Yep.
and say things are that shouldn't be on your list, that should be on your list. It is, I want people to embrace that list, have that intention so that they can actually live it out.
yeah, that is awesome. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for today. I just truly appreciate it. Everybody, you need to get his book, Live Out Your List. It'll be down in the show notes page. Make sure that you get a copy of it. It's a quick read. I think I read it in like an afternoon because it kept me enthralled the whole time. And I really, to be honest and genuine, dude, it was one of the best books I've read this year.
Oh, geez.
I really, truly appreciated it.
You don't want me to be crying on your show. Thank you. It's very kind. I greatly appreciate it. And I greatly
Now,
appreciate your support.
I truly appreciate you, bud. Folks, Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, we have wonderful people like this on the show. Make sure that you subscribe that way. We're here for all of these because we are just finding amazing people every day to talk about their freedom stories and what they've done. And hopefully, Roger's story makes you go, maybe I need to do my own Camino, whatever that is. And I encourage you to. So thanks a lot. We'll see you guys here next week.